Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I wanted to talk to you folks today about some community stuff, some mags, how mags should be training in tribe and all that kind of stuff, whatever you call yourself. I know not every one of you have some kind of community tribe mag going on, but all of you should be working towards that if you can at all possible. Form together with others to kind of create some kind of unit to survive together, because all this stuff that's happening, all the things that's headed towards us, it's going to be rough. And if there are more of us together, then of course there's strength in numbers. So it's just common sense, right, to try to come together as much as possible. Now, for those of you that say, I just can't do it, there's just no one else around me, I don't know what to tell you. Keep trying. Don't give up. But this message is kind of specifically for those that already have this. And if you don't, still watch it, because I think you're going to pick up some pointers and some stuff, maybe even in case you finally get together with some other people. You as a mag, a tribe, a community, those words will be interchangeable throughout this video. You need to be planning together, okay? Maybe your family has your own kind of survival prepping plan. You have this plan that if the lights go out, maybe there's an EMP, maybe simply the grid just goes down. You have a plan for that. You have a plan for if the dollar hyperinflates or the banking systems collapse, or they say, starting tomorrow morning, everybody has to use this new digital currency or else, or the next pandemic. Many of you have plans for that. They may not be perfect. You may not have thought of everything, but you have kind of a working plan, whether it be in your head or on paper, that what you would do if some of those things happen. What is your plan as a group? What do you plan as a group to do? Do you have a plan of how to pull together? Do you have a plan of how to communicate? Do you have a plan of bartering and trading? Do you have a plan to come to each other's aid? Do you have a plan within your group to work with others outside? Because as much as we want to say, oh, I'm never going to work with anyone else. Once the lights go out, it's, we're closing ourselves off from the rest of the world, and that's never going to happen. It's a very unlikely chance that that'll happen. Most likely you'll have to work with other people. There's going to be people around you, unless there are a few of you that may be fortunate enough to have a massive amount of land to where your neighbors are so far away, there's a good chance you'll just never see them again. The rest of us, you need to be planning for your interaction with other people and your interaction as a group with other people. If you live, and I'm going to assume for the sake of this argument that many of you already live kind of out in the country. You live out away from the big inner cities. If that's the case, you must know this, that if things get really bad, if they get really, really crazy all of a sudden, you're not going to have any mutual aid from government to come help you. It's not going to be there. Most rural counties, and even counties that have a bigger city in them, most of the rural counties don't have enough social services, enough police support, enough firemen to handle a massive catastrophe. If you look at what's happened in France, imagine if stuff like that was happening in all of our major cities. I think back to here in Missouri years ago, Ferguson, Missouri, when it had its riots there. You all probably remember that. They were pulling police officers and highway patrol and deputy sheriffs from all over the state to go to that one city to help kind of control the violence there. What if that was happening in a lot of the major cities, all of them, or at least a majority of the major cities in your state? The police, they're not going to be out there in the countryside. It's not going to happen. Most rural counties, if you add up every deputy sheriff and all the police officers that work in all the cities in that county, aren't very much. The county that I live in, it's a very large county when it comes to square mileage, but it's a very small county when it comes to population. The entire county that I live in, if you add up all the deputy sheriffs and all the city police officers, you get less than 30 for the whole county. And that's not 30 all at once, because they have to have shifts that they take. And that includes the chief of police, the main sheriff, that includes detectives, investigators, everything. So if something were to happen where there was a complete breakdown, or there was no electricity, or whatever it was, I know that in my county and many other, the vast majority of American counties, because the vast majority of American counties are rural, okay? Look it up on a map. I don't know what the percentage is, but I would guess that it's well over 80% of the counties in the United States are rural counties. And the vast majority of those out in the countryside, like where I live, if things get bad, you're not going to have the police to come help you. They're going to have to stay in these cities to protect them, to protect the banks, to protect the government, protect the supply chains, the businesses. They will be there. The only thing that really keeps most human beings from acting like animals, from rioting, is simply this belief that, you know, society, this respect for society, this fear. And when all that is gone, then people act crazy. We also have to add in that there's been well over, I'd say, 10 million. That's my best guess, but I'd say probably in the neighborhoods of 8 to 10 million illegals come across the border just in the last 2 years. It's quite possibly more, maybe a lot more, but I'd say that's a pretty conservative estimate, that we're looking at 8 to 10 million that's come across the border in just the last 2 or 3 years. So you have all of those, and many of those could be here purposefully to disrupt. So what is your plan as a group when that happens? Do you have a plan to go into action? Is your plan going to only offer security for the people in your group, or because maybe you have neighbors that they're not necessarily part of your group, but they're good people and they're willing to stand up and fight for what's right and protect their area? Would you work with them? Have you talked about that within your group? Have you made plans for that? Have you trained for that? Have you potentially talked to some of the people around you and neighbors? These kinds of conversations should be happening, because I think we're getting closer and closer to the point that we could see something like this happen. Is it going to be widespread and long-term? Maybe, maybe not. But it only takes this kind of thing to happen for 2 or 3 weeks at least for the breakdown to get so bad that it becomes seriously dangerous. Just a week or two without power and without the aid of any kind of government intervention could cause things to really break down fast. And you need to be ready for that. You need to have a plan in place to kind of protect yourself and your group from that. This is why communications is important, having radio communications, having a plan of how to get to each other's place. I would guess that the vast majority of your mags and your groups and tribes, they don't all live on the same property. Most of us, we have our own places and we're kind of in a geographic, area, but we still have to travel, and so you need to figure that out. You need to know the terrain of the area around you. When this happens, when there's this kind of a breakdown, there's always those drug users, those petty thieves, common thieves that, excuse me, they live out in the countryside. They just do everywhere. There is no place in this country, out in the rural areas, that doesn't have at least a few of them. And you're going to have to deal with that. You, as a group, may have to deal with that. You may not be able to call 911 and expect that they can respond at all, or at least in a decent amount of time, to protect your family, because some guy that lives a mile down the road is some crackhead, and he's just decided to, try to get what he can out of people. You have to have a plan for that. It's not just how you can survive on your property, but how you can survive a complete breakdown of the system. Because if we look at all the things that are transpiring, that's exactly where it could lead to. It's not guaranteed, but it certainly could lead to that. And this is where mags and tribes and communities really come into play. Are you communicating with each other? Do you have regular meetings? Are you talking about this stuff, trying to figure out a way that you as a group can survive this and be able to communicate and come to each other's aid, and very possibly incorporate other people in your area, your neighbors and stuff, farmers that are good people and have, good survival instincts and good capabilities. They're just not part of your group, but, in a broader sense, they are kind of a prepper anyways. and you probably think a lot of alike and maybe even believe very similarly. Maybe it's people that go to your little rural country church. Have you talked to them? What to do, how to band together, how to offer some type of area security against all the bad people that's out there? Because it's very difficult for you to do that all on your own. You know, if your plan is your wife's going to take care of the children and then you're going to be out there, you know, point guard, trying to keep all the bad guys off, eventually that's going to fail. You have to sleep, you have to rest, you're going to get sick. If you got injured, there's all kinds of things that can happen. And working together with others around you that are very like-minded is going to increase the probability of your survival substantially. And so you need to be doing that. You need to be having these conversations. You need to be having them now. Don't wait. Have these conversations now with the people around you, the people in your crew, and even your neighbors. You know, you don't have to be quite as dramatic with your neighbors, but hey, you know, if things got really bad and things kind of fell apart, you know, how would we get a hold of each other? You know, I could come, if anything happened, I'd come to your aid. I mean, these are agreements that I have with my neighbors, and I know many others do the same with theirs. So you need to be moving towards this direction, because while we are not guaranteed if anything will happen or when anything will happen, it does look very likely that things will happen because we know they're happening right now. We know things are worsening as we speak. And at some point, could things take a dramatic turn for the worse? Yes. And that's why you need to be prepared, and you need to have a plan, not just a personal family plan, but really a community plan in place, ready to go, so that when those kind of things happen, you're not so caught off guard. Folks, you need to be getting your houses in order and preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Hey, before I get off of here, I just wanted to let you know that my wife and I today did another podcast. We've been doing this every week now. I have, and she assists sometimes, but we did a podcast. It's audio only, radio style. You can find it on most of your podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's right there available. The first hour is free for the public, and you can listen to it there. If you want to listen to hour 2, please go over to locals.com or the preparedhomestead.locals.com. Sign up for a membership there, and you can listen to our weekly podcast there, the part 2, that's only for members only, along with a lot of other content. Folks, you need to be getting yourself ready, and listening to this stuff, it could get you ready, but if nothing else, it's at least entertaining. Get your houses in order. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.